Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it's been quite a while since I last posted any new videos, but I've decided to get back into it. So today I am reacting to a video by The Front, which is a very excellent channel. I highly recommend you check them out. I'll put the link in the description. And it is the video on the dark history of meth in Nazi Germany during World War II. So let's get into it.
A Luftwaffe pilot spearheading an aerial formation removes his breathing mask and pops a Stuka Tabletten, washing the bitter pill down with nothing but spit. A panzer driver breaks a piece of Panzer Schokolade in half with his back teeth and rides his metal steed through a tree. A foot soldier tips the last of his magic biscuits into his palm, knocking it back with a swig from his canteen. A German housewife peels away the wrapper of a Hildebrand chocolate and munches down more magic biscuit than the pilot, tank driver, and soldier combined. All of them are slapped into a state of heightened alertness and attached euphoria. All fears of their oncoming toil are pumped out of their bodies by their fast beating hearts, and they know exactly what they're doing. The pilot feels as if he's up above his aircraft, watching himself soar through the clouds. The driver could plow through the forest all day and all night, or until his tank runs out of juice. Owl-eyed, the soldier marches straight and tall, taking more sweet, cool air into his lungs than he ever has before, and eager to charge into battle alongside his equally pepped-up comrades. The housewife sweeps every atom of dust from the shelves and has her home spotless before the sun reaches its highest point in the sky. What do these four Germans have in common? Well, they're all alive in the first years of the Second World War, and they're all high on meth. Doubtless you've heard that
Germany and meth during World War II. Germany did indeed use meth during World War II. In fact, there's even reports that say Hitler may have used some meth himself during the conflict, but as the conflict dragged on, he apparently used meth to try to give him an energy boost when he was very exhausted but still needed to give a public speech and didn't want to appear weak. Hitler is also regarded as having used drugs more and more late in the conflict to help him deal with the stress of the conflict, which may have helped cause him to be so delusional as to think Germany could still win when they were on their last legs. So yeah, Germany does have a dark history with meth during the conflict.
Blitzkriegs were hastened by methamphetamine, though in this video, we're going to pop a Panzer Schokolade ourselves and delve a little deeper into the geary side of Germany and her military during World War II. Also, shout out to our loyal supporter Jonathan Fink, who suggested this video. While amphetamines are derived from Ephrida sinica, methamphetamines don't grow on trees, so where did the Germans get all their meth from? Well, methamphetamine, a drug in the amphetamine class, was first synthesized in 1893 by Japanese chemist Nagai Nagayoshi, though the crystalline form of the drug wasn't born until 1919 when Akira Agota, another Japanese chemist, concocted methamphetamine hydrochloride. During the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin, the German pharmaceutical company Temmler Werke's head chemist, Dr. Fritz Hauschild, noticed that American athletes were dosing Benzedrine, a legal amphetamine at the time, with great success.
Okay, Benzedrine. Benzedrine was not just used during the Olympics. As an amphetamine, it was also used by American and I believe British soldiers as well during World War II to try to give soldiers an extra burst of energy. I believe it was also used to maybe help kind of deal with post-traumatic stress disorder or other horrors of war. And it was not quite as strong, as harmful as meth, but it still had some negative effects. Nonetheless, it was definitely not a good substance, and although there might have been some short-run positives, there of course were a lot of long-term negatives for people's health and well-being.
So he steered Temmler in that direction, taking lessons from the aforementioned Japanese chemists and discovering his own method of synthesizing meth. Fritz trademarked it Pervitin, and by 1937, it could be purchased in pill form over the counter of German pharmacies without a prescription. Soon after the Nazi Party took power in January 1933, drugs became taboo, and strict punishments, including imprisonment in concentration camps, and even euthanasia were set in place. Though, despite reaching a pharmacy near you more than 4 years after the Nazis gained power and opposed their anti-drug policies, Pervitin remained on the shelf, marketed to the German people as a miracle substance to meet the demands of an energy-tense time, as one doctor put it. The people gobbled it up, and Pervitin became as much a part of their daily lives as a hot cup of joe. Pervitin was the very best friend of Germans performing arduous physical or mental tasks. Labourers became more machine than man. Nurses worked long into the night without batting an eye. Students crammed like they'd never crammed before. The shy became the life of the party.
Okay, this is interesting they mentioned students cramming. Because you think using meth would hurt your intelligence and hurt your ability to study, but here students found it helped their ability to study, so it may have had a short-term positive for their intelligence. I mean, I've heard of other cases of people studying while using like other drugs like marijuana and saying it helped their studies, but they found they had, in order to keep up the benefits, they had to keep using weed. I don't know how all this works, but this is very bizarre that you would use something like meth to improve your IQ by studying harder.
That housewife from our intro, she cleaned her house, yeah, but she lost her love handles in the process too, as Pervitin had the added effect of murdering one's appetite. To put it simply, the German people were awake. A charismatic leader with the to-die-for mustache was hoisting them out of their depression, and they were pepped up on Temmler's magic biscuits, and they were awake. It's only logical that the military followed suit. It all started with Dr. Otto Friedrich Ranke, the director of the Research Institute of Defense Physiology, which was charged with boosting the performance of the German military through the medicinal science of physiology. It's not an aspect of the military you hear about every day, though it turned out to be of great significance to the Wehrmacht and the world during the Second World War. As part of his gig, Ranke was tasked with finding new ways to invigorate the personnel of the armed forces, to blast fatigue out of existence. He read all about Fritz's new magic biscuit, Pervitin, and he liked the prospects, so he got his hands on some and started running some tests, concluding it was an excellent substance for rousing a weary squad, and a militarily valuable substance. With subsequent insight, however, Ranke came to understand that the drug had some nasty side effects, deeming it a double-edged sword, but by this point, the Wehrmacht was already divvying it out to its troops in preparation for the September 1939 invasion of Poland. After crossing the Vistula River in Poland, the 3rd Panzer Division reported on the effects of Pervitin, stating, "Often there is euphoria, an increase in attention span, clear intensification of performance, work is achieved without difficulty. A pronounced alertness effect and a feeling of freshness. Worked through the day, lifting of depression, returned to normal mood." And another report read, "Everyone fresh and cheerful, excellent discipline, slight euphoria and increased thirst for action, mental encouragement, very stimulated, no accidents, long-lasting effect. After taking 4 tablets, double vision and seeing colors. The feeling of hunger subsides." Now, I don't know about double vision and seeing colors, but the rest of these symptoms allowed the Wehrmacht soldiers to forget all about the specifics of what they were doing in someone else's country, block out all those pesky emotions like fear and shame, and absolutely blitzkrieg poor Poland, with one senior German lieutenant even stating that it was simply a matter of dividing up the country, as if the Pervitin had made the invasion that easy. While Dr.
Okay, so obviously using drugs clouds moral judgment. Clearly, when people are high on drugs, they care about the fact that they're high. They care less about moral qualms. I mean, people will flat out kill their family members to get another dose of a drug if you're addicted to it. So I guess this makes sense when Germany was committing these atrocities, that this may have clouded moral judgment and made it easier for soldiers to commit a lot of these atrocities without thinking so much about the moral qualms and the rights and wrongs of what they were doing.
Dr. Ranke was smashing a fair bit of Pervitin himself at this point. He was more than a little concerned with the carefree way in which it was being distributed through and used by the Wehrmacht. And back in Germany, the Reichsheldführer Leonardo Conti was expressing similar concerns for German civilians, managing to get Pervitin changed to a prescription drug. Though, as far as the military was concerned, the invasion of Poland was a success and the benefits of Pervitin outweighed the negatives. So, in April 1940, they sent out the Stimulant Decree, basically making Pervitin a part of a ration kit. Part of the decree read, "The experience of the Polish campaign has shown that in certain situations, military success was crucially influenced by overcoming fatigue, which can, in certain situations, be more important than concern for any related harm if military success is endangered by sleep." As for the civilians, prescription was a pretty loose term and they basically got all the Pervitin they wanted anyway. With Pervitin in their lunchboxes, the Wehrmacht METH-krieged the Low Countries and France, pushing the Allies into the sea at Dunkirk, though after this, the shock value was lost, and lightning-fast warfare was no longer suitable for the type of war which ensued. As the Germans enacted Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, the come-down became just a little too real. German veteran Otthheinz Schulte-Steinberg, a medical officer during the war, said, "In Russia, it was a war of attrition, positional warfare. In such circumstances, Pervitin was no use. It just exhausted you. Sleep deprivation simply didn't bring any tactical advantages anymore." So, what exactly was the come down like? And what was the fate of Pervitin in the Wehrmacht and back home in Germany? Well, on top of inducing circulatory problems and fatal heart attacks, Pervitin basically drained users of their ability to be happy without being on something. And thus, people became hugely addicted to it. While searching for their next hit, addicts suffered from the sweats, dizziness, shaking, depression, rotting teeth, organ failure, and even paranoia, delusions, hallucinations, and psychosis. In some instances, these psychotic come-downs were so bad that addicts put a gun to their own head and blew out their brains. Reichsheldführer Conti expressed his concerns, saying, "This is an immediate danger to the health and future of our people, and our young soldiers look extraordinarily ill, often grey and sunken-cheeked." And while he did achieve a formal victory on the 12th of June 1941, when he successfully subjected Pervitin to the Reich Opium Law, which should have regulated the substance, it continued to pump like a poison through Germany and the Wehrmacht throughout the Second World War and beyond, albeit to a lesser degree in the military, which could no longer rely on METH-Krieg tactics. As the Reichsheldführer feared, Pervitin had given rise to a nation of addicts, and methamphetamine was only deemed legal in Germany after her reunification in 1990. So yes, meth was circulating through the Wehrmacht during the Second World War, especially in its opening years, though the addiction issue, as we hope you've learnt today, went way further than the military, quite literally rotting the German people and pervading through German culture long after the war. Just like meth and other forms of amphetamines plagued and continue to plague other nations all around the world. It's also important to clarify that, while Pervitin may have put a little extra speed in blitzkrieg operations, it merely supplemented other factors which made Germany so effective during those opening years, notably the element of surprise. There were of course factors which also limited the effectiveness of the drug, such as the need to refuel vehicles. In other words, even if the drivers could go all night, their trucks and tanks weren't hooked up to bottomless sources of fuel. To reiterate, Pervitin was not responsible for Germany's early success, it was merely one of many enzymes in the question. Though, what are your thoughts? Was Pervitin less or more vital to early German blitzkrieg tactics as we've depicted in this video? Was the Pervitin problem in Germany not quite as bad or even worse than we've suggested? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And before we wrap it up guys, we'd like to congratulate Zardozi from Sao Paulo, Brazil on winning our first Discord flash fiction competition with his piece A Cobra for Moi, and Laita Azido for winning our first illustration/painting competition. You too can enter competitions like these by joining our Discord server, that link in the description below. And if you want access to more exclusive content that you won't get on the YouTube channel or the Discord server, please do follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've learned something new.
Okay, so my thoughts. Well, obviously, it was not a good thing that Germany relied so much on meth, of course. As far as the effectiveness in combat, it seemed like it was like short-term gain, long-term loss kind of thing, that it may have helped a little bit during Germany's early invasions, but it came at a because it helped again take away the moral qualms, clouded moral judgment, and increase their speed. But all the disadvantages, how it hurt the health of their soldiers, caused them to commit suicide. It ended up causing them to become addicted to Pervitin. There's also the cost of manufacturing it because obviously you have to make it somehow, and that takes up time, that takes up money, that takes up resources. It ended up overall, I think it probably hurt Germany's effectiveness in World War II. That Germany would have been more effective if they had not, if they had never given it out to their soldiers and never returned to it in the first place. So overall, do I think it was worth it as far as helping Germany's success? No, I don't. And obviously, it was even if obviously it was not a good thing in the first place, even if it had helped Germany's military success. So clearly, I think this was. So I don't think it was a good as a tactical decision, and morally and ethically, obviously, was downright terrible. Obviously, it was morally wrong what Germany was doing in the first place with its invasions, but overall, I this seems like it ended up hurting Germany's World War II effort more than it helped it in the long run. So that's my two thoughts on it. So that's the end of the video. Thank you everyone. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye guys.